with how fast the technology is advancing today, I mean, who knows what the creative landscape is going to look like in 10, 20 years from now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think there's links to what we do with with toys and VR. You'd appreciate toys more, right? Because right now there's too easy access to everything, I think.
I don't want to live in your world, Nathan.
I know, it's a sinister world, Nathan.
Now, I would say just keep it off Facebook until it's necessary, or social media, just because I hate those posts where people don't say what they're talking about. Like, I hate when people if you're not gonna name the name, then just shut up.
Hey, toy family! Welcome to another edition of the Marsham Toy Hour, where we discuss anything and everything designer toys. I'm Gary Ham.
I'm George Gaspar.
And George, Teresa's not joining us today.
Boo, it's her birthday.
It was her birthday. But you know what? Last recording, she mentioned that she was going to start an anti-Gary Ham club. So I had to boot her.
Nice. I'll say happy birthday to her then anyway. Happy birthday, Teresa.
In fact, I was going to mention this when all three of us were on, but this is our 97th episode. So we have just 3 episodes left until our 100th episode. And then after that, I think that's going to end the podcast.
It'll never end.
Oh, George. Don't you think 100's just a good round number to end it on?
Nope. 1,000 or nothing.
All right, that was my April Fool's, but you didn't bite.
I could never believe you would end this thing. Come on. No matter how much you hate it, you'll always do it.
It gives me something to bitch about and something to be productive on every week. So there you go. It's not just you and I tonight, George. So rejoining us, this guy, he was on probably a year and a half ago. Nathan Jurevicius is going to join us again tonight. Anyone who's not familiar, Nathan's an amazing designer. He's the man behind Scary Girl, which is, believe is currently in production for a feature film. Correct, Nathan?
Yes, actually, we're in the contracting stage now, which is taking months, and I mean, sort of frustrating, but not too bad because we're also in tandem working on a big virtual reality game right now. So that's what I'm just taking a break from that at the moment and talking to you guys while the rest of the team gets some food and does more layout on the game.
Well, I appreciate it. I was telling George, I literally just contacted you this morning because we were going to talk about the IKEA Art Event that you took part in. And I figured, hey, I'll just reach out to Nathan, see if he wants to come on. And you were more than willing. So thanks for coming on such short notice.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I really enjoyed last time, and why not keep chatting to Gary?
I took some serious crap from last time you were on. A lot of people were saying I had a definite man crush going on with you.
Yeah, actually, it was funny. I was going to bring that up, but I thought maybe everyone forgot about it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's good to have a man crush. It shows that you're a good rounded, person. You can appreciate all different genders.
Yeah, well, I'm progressive like that, Nathan, and I'm man enough to acknowledge a handsome man when I see one, and maybe I laid down a little thick, but we had fun that day.
Yeah, don't fight.
And I gotta say, I wasn't on the last time you were on, and it was so nice to finally hear how to say Jurevicius, because after 10 years of doing Toy Break and talking about your art and your toys and all of your things and not ever knowing how to say it and just saying stuff like Nathan J or trying to stumble through something, it was awesome to finally get Jurevicius and be able to say it. I think it's one of my favorite words now.
Oh, good. Oh, very nice. Yeah, it's been such a sort of a thing where I've just accepted everyone pronouncing it wrong. But yeah, it's good to get the word out there that it's a good hearty Lithuanian word, which apparently means by the sea. But I actually don't speak Lithuanian. And
so actually, Nathan, last time you were on, let's see, it was the day after Trump was announced as winning the election, which is why George wasn't with us that week because he was celebrating.
Hey, wait a minute.
Probably not. I don't know. I don't know what you're doing. I don't remember. But it was actually the weekend before DesignerCon 2016, and you were telling me that you couldn't attend that event because you were off to a small town in Sweden. And now I feel like I know why you were going to Sweden. Was it to go to the Malaris Glassworks out there in Sweden?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it was meeting up with that amazing glass factory and also with IKEA.
Yeah, so the past couple of weeks, I've actually been seeing people post pictures of the glass figurines they picked up from yourself and the several other artists that took place in the IKEA 2018 art event. And for those who don't know, it's IKEA's fourth annual art event that they've been hosting, and this year they decided to invite several contemporary artists to work in the glass medium, many of which have never worked in glass before. They all produced these really great figurines for IKEA, and the event was actually supposed to take place in April throughout the world at all IKEAs, but I guess several IKEA stores decided to release the glass crystal figurines early, and that's why we've been seeing them on Instagram and stuff the past couple of weeks. But how was that experience for you, Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably one of my most favorite collaborations that I've done. It was sort of one of those things where you get the email from IKEA, and it's like, blah blah blah, we're doing this project, and I don't know if you're interested, but would you like to work with us? And I'm kind of like, instantly yes. I it's like I've always wanted to work in mediums that I haven't tried before.
Sure.
And I mean, the glass, working in glass was so addictive, and it's such an interesting process as well, because my dad's a potter, so I've done a lot of sort of clay, and I've used kilns before, and organic objects, but glass is a really, really interesting, really unusual, really beautiful material to see your objects in.
Now, we always talk about on the show like the limitations of working in vinyl, and you have to deal with only what the factories can do, and undercuts, and air bubbles and that sort of thing. But I would imagine that designing something for glass would have way more limitations. You probably can't do much as far as undercuts and stuff like that. So when you were designing for the glass figurine, like how many did you just knock it out of the park on your first attempt, or how many different designs did you go through before it actually worked for the glass manufacturing process?
Yeah, that was a kind of an interesting experience, because all of us, because it wasn't just me. There was a handful of other artists that were involved in this group of glass objects, and all of us, I think, initially went, okay, we're just going to do whatever we want, and then because it was sort of I suppose it was a bit of a work in progress, an experiment even for IKEA, because they've done tons of things in glass, but they actually haven't really worked as in kind of glass objects.
Okay.
Even for them, the initial kind of restrictions they were a little bit unaware of, and it was the glass company talking to us and saying, hey, this is what you need to do in order to kind of make certain objects work. For me, I was experimenting with two different options. One was a blown glass, and the other one was cast glass into molds.
Okay.
The blown glass, the way that we were doing it, had a lot more restrictions, because there's you have to pull the glass once it's blown out of a mold. We were actually blowing it into molds. We weren't doing kind of like free form glass. It was being blown to the shape of an owl. Mm-hmm. And you have to make sure that the actual object itself, you can actually get the glass to actually reach the edges of the mold. So there's a lot of effort in trying to, like you're blowing it, and you've got to get kind of the molten glass to kind of hit the edges, and then you've got to when it comes out of the mold, it's got to be there's a central seam that it's got to come out of. Like, it can't be in an irregular kind of shape, because it doesn't open out of the mold well. And so there was sort of certain restrictions on where the center line of the object would be. And so I've had like these owl ears that would have been normally easy in kind of clay or in vinyl, whereas in glass it had to actually line up a certain way, and that sort of restricted the way that the glass object could be.
Okay.
And there's lots of other things, how big the objects could be, how much, how many kind of colors you could add, whether you wanted to be sandblasted or hand painted, or all these things. It gave us a lot of options, but also meant that we had certain limitations on just how detailed certain things are.
Sure. How art directed were you on it? I noticed they're all different colors. Like, I think there's, I'm not sure how many different artists, but there was Arkiv Vilmansa, Course, James Jarvis, Joe Ledbetter, Junko Mizuno, Ludwig Lofgren, Michael Lau, and yourself. So did you guys all have to coordinate on what colors you wanted it to end up being? Did you all have to choose a different color and stuff like that?
No, actually, at the start, it was very much. I mean, what I liked about working with IKEA is that initially it's kind of like just come up with something, and so you sort of come up with these, really unusual ideas, and then it kind of gets more art director out of that. But there was this perception from the art director that initially contacted us that we would do something that was relatively iconic to what we'd done in the past. So, if you were, if you did something that represented your work, it was better to sort of focus on that. So for me, I'd been doing lots and lots of our projects, and they were kind of guiding me into kind of, we'd really like something that's owl related. My initial idea was a little bit more sort of an abstract kind of totemy sculpture-y type of thing. And I thought it was really cool, but technically it wasn't feasible. And as far as an iconic image for me, it wasn't probably iconic enough of what I'd, done as an owl kind of enthusiast.
Yeah, I think doing the owl was probably the best representation of you for sure. And I think Joe Ledbetter, I think I might have read that he also had the same initial process. Like he might have designed something initially that maybe wasn't iconically him, but in the end he ended up going with the Mr. Bunny. But I don't remember. Maybe it wasn't him.
Yeah, and it's funny. I think one of my first ones was sort of a almost like a bunny guru type of character, but I hadn't seen anything that Joe had been doing. I didn't actually know what anyone was doing, and it was a mystery until we all met up with each other, and it was like, oh wow, you're doing that. But behind the scenes, obviously the art director Henrik was carefully art directing everything and going, this piece probably needs to be a bit smaller so it fits with the group. Mm-hmm. We can't have like two kind of rabbit looking objects. Is this iconic enough based on this artist's work? So I mean, he was kind of very carefully behind the scenes, really trying to get something art directed as a group. The first owl that I made, which actually I actually offered as a limited edition blown glass owl. That was actually offered at the end of last year, and I did 30 of those ones. It's a different one to the IKEA one, but it was the original IKEA owl. But we decided that it didn't really fully fit with the rest of the glass objects by the other artists.
Okay.
And so, and that's why I did moved on to the other design.
Yeah, I actually do remember seeing that one. It was very similar in appearance to the one that actually got produced, but the one that ended up in IKEA is slightly taller with some stylistic differences, but they were both green, I think. So that first one, that was the one that ended up being blown glass, the one that we saw a lot of photos of you kind of blowing into the mold, and the one that actually ended up getting a release. Was that a blown glass molded one too?
Well, the initial ones that I did were blown glass, and then the final one is actually a 2-piece poured glass object. So I think with Joe's it's like a half mold, and mine a 360 mold. So it's done in 2 halves and then joined together. So you'll see like a seam.
I watched a lot of YouTube videos on this glass manufacturing. I mean, it's quite the extensive process, and it's amazing that IKEA is selling these for $30 each per figurine.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, that's amazing when I actually watch the videos and see probably how time consuming, and it looks quite expensive actually. So for them to be, IKEA is known for affordable pricing, but I wasn't expecting them to be 30. I thought maybe they'd be around $60 price range.
Yeah, and they're really solid and substantial in its when you feel them. They're not light at all. They're like a really heavy kind of beautiful object. It's
they're pretty large too.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone was expecting them to be like 3 inches tall, and then when they arrived, they range more from like 6-7 inches in some cases, and they weigh a ton. Because like mine, for instance, is 2 solid pieces of glass that are put together, and so it's. I mean, I can't even think of how heavy it is. Probably heavy as an old brick phone back in the 80s or whatever.
Yeah, I actually tried to go to IKEA and see what they look like, but my IKEA didn't have them on display yet, so I think they're actually waiting until April, so I'll probably head over on Monday when this releases. I'll probably head over during lunch and check them out, because I really want to see them in person. I've seen a lot of them on social media and stuff, but I don't know that the photography is giving it the best representation of what they'll look like in person. So yeah, I want to check them out.
Yeah, because what's interesting is IKEA has even though they are offered worldwide, they're limiting the amount of stock per store to I think 30 pieces. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so I think 30 pieces for each artist, I think is the case. So yeah, different locations will sell out quicker depending on, if an artist is local or not. I think from what I understand in Burbank, most of them might have sold out already in the Burbank location.
That sucks because Ben told me Ben picked them up like a week ago, and I was like, oh, I'll go next time I'm there, figuring they were going to have them for a while. But if it's a week ago and there's only 30, they're gone. Like, there's no way for me to get that now.
Yeah,
Because that
exactly.
Burbank store is the one near me.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that they may do is if a store if a store is further out, they might see if they can snap up some of their stock or whatever and bring them over to other stores, depending on which ones are more popular. But I mean, they haven't even been offered internationally yet, or maybe they just were offered internationally in some locations. But I think that'd be a bit of an eye opener for a lot of people who normally go to IKEA and haven't seen this type of work in the past, because a lot of times it's either material or works on paper, but this is the first time they've really done something that is really substantial, is actually a great object to have in your house or in your studio or whatever, and it doesn't feel like a throwaway item like a lot of stuff can come across as.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think in the past the art events have always been like a printed piece of work, and it's not always on the highest quality paper and stuff like that. And you might go back a couple months later, and the pieces are in the bargain bins and stuff. So I think this is a really great approach, and it's a high end and a great looking, beautiful piece to now have the art event in a 3D a world. It's going to be, I mean, especially with going glass, it's going to be gorgeous. And what I think is really interesting and really cool is that they use artists who aren't familiar with the glass medium. So I think they're going to be, it's probably actually going to surprise, glass collectors out there as well, that your approach to the designs for glass are probably going to be a very unique, and also might push the glass makers out there into a new world of how they can work with the medium.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think a lot of us started to get a little bit addicted to the idea of we could start making things in glass because, like Joe and James Jarvis and I were flown to Sweden, and we actually got to have hands-on experience, in blowing the glass, in looking at how, sandblasting happens, how, glass is poured and glazes and all this sort of stuff that, I hadn't really fully seen. And I think all of us were kind of, after that experience of really, sitting down with, the glass makers, because it's not like a big, factory that looks really impersonal. Like, it's a real kind of, it's big, but it feels like a sort of almost like a family. And they really, took us by the hand and kind of led us through the process, helped us understand what we could do. And, I love that companies now can actually start introducing artists into mediums that they're not used to. And this is a great example of it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, you mentioned the art director on this for IKEA was Henrik. I think I read up his name was Henrik Most. And so great job on him for selecting the artists that he did for this. And do you know, is he a collector of designer toys himself? I mean, do you know if he owns your works and the works of others within his own personal collections?
I think he knew about sort of the designer toy world, from what I understand. I'm not sure if he has a major collection of toys, but he knew about the scene.
Okay. I mean, I would assume he does, because he probably owns a few pieces of the artists that are definitely in the series, I would think. And I wonder how familiar he is with the designer toy scene. I imagine he probably is going to be aware that a lot of these are probably just going to end up being flipper bait and gobbled up based on that. But I don't think that probably comes into a factor in play when he's deciding on the artist. But, I mean, what do you think? Do you think, George, a lot of this is going to become flipper bait?
Oh, I'm already looking on eBay right now to see. Yeah. Like, it's already up there like crazy.
Oh man. Well, I'm in Phoenix, George. I don't think we have that many. We're not like Burbank, where it's just a humongous art creative community. It's a little bit smaller. I don't know how many, collectors and stuff. So if there's any that you want, I probably have a better chance of getting it here in Phoenix that you do in Burbank. So if there's any that you want, let me know and I'll pick it up.
All right, cool. I'll check locally and then I'll let you know. I got to check before we release this episode, though.
Yeah, it's going to be a mad rush on Monday, so I'm going to be fighting people off. But George, do you understand the molding process that Nathan was describing? Have you ever experienced it or seen it before?
I've actually been to like a couple glass blowing studios. Like I was in Vermont, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff that goes on up there. And I've always loved that, or just watching that process and like just seeing what people can do mixing, colored glass, and it's a lot more like blowing glass and like free form shapes in that kind of place, like in Vermont where they're making like, bells and things like that. But I love seeing that. I've seen the molds for there's for some like glasses and things like that, like drinking glasses and things like that. And I'm sure it's pretty similar to the same kind of idea that you would get for making the owl, even, where it's like you have to make sure there's no undercut, there's no thing that's going to snap on the mold or catch.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can imagine, I'm looking at the pictures that are online of this. Even just at the IKEA blog, they have a couple pictures of the mold and things like that. Yeah. So it's pretty cool to see that this is so many of the objects that are in the designer toy scene end up becoming like a home decor item anyway. Like especially the larger things like these, where it's like it sits on a shelf and most people will use it as an accent object in their house, or like, something that's, sitting on their shelf that's a nice, in a nice way, not just like cluttered up like all my shelves are. So it's cool to see this kind of thing that could reach like people that aren't collectors of this kind of stuff, where they could, some guy that's just randomly going to IKEA, some family, and they see this and they just want to have this on their shelf. I think it's kind of great, because then if your name's on the box, they end up going back, looking it up, and then maybe get into some of these other, vinyl toys that are out there.
Yeah,
so I think this could be a really cool thing to bring new people into this scene.
Oh, definitely. All age groups too, because my stepmom, she would never put a vinyl toy on her shelf at home. She's got a very classy house, but I could totally see her putting Nathan's Paleta on the shelf or something like that. So I think it would just reach all age groups as well.
And it could open her up, into the idea that vinyl thing isn't really a toy. It is also an art object that you could put on your shelf and not be ashamed of it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Before I was like, I don't know if I want glass, 'cause I don't collect glass, and I've always said that I never really cared for clear and transparent stuff. But now I actually want to go see these in person. I'm sure I'll probably end up picking up a couple.
Yeah, what I love about sort of, I think, the glass, as opposed to say maybe some transparent materials, is that there's the way it reflects and actually changes color at times of the day is something that I hadn't really experienced before in kind of the plastics that I'd used, if I'd ever had any transparency in it before. It's got a really unique way of reflecting light and color, and that's also in the way that, particularly with the owl that I've done, it's actually a clear object, and only the back is colored.
Okay.
But the back then is heated, and the color kind of infuses into the back of the object. And so if you, it looks green, but it's not actually green glass, and that creates more of a unique effect to the actual object itself, because it's not fully like if you've got green glass, it wouldn't be as transparent, and it wouldn't reflect colors the same way. And so this is a really nice technique where it kind of disperses a sprayed color behind, and gives you sort of a unique look that, at different times of the day will make the greens look different.
Okay.
As well. So yeah, it's just a really interesting technique, and it's something that I'd like to experiment more with in the future.
That's awesome. That also explains why on social media I was seeing so many different shades of the green. I thought maybe it was colored glass, but hearing you explain that's actually really cool.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so let's move on to talking about more other Nathan things. But before we do that, let's take a break and hear from anyone who's been missing Teresa. Here's some words from the birthday girl.
All right, let's take a break and mention some of our awesome sponsors. If you're looking for some designer toys to purchase, we've got some great stores for you. Check out 3dretro.com and strangecattoys.com. If you go to Strange Cat Toys, you'll receive 10% off if you use promo code DOPE at checkout. And if you're looking for some awesome designer toy news, we've got two awesome blogs to check out, SpankyStokes.com and thetoychronicle.com. And Toy Chronicle also has a sweet app, so search Toy Chronicle on the Apple Store or Google Play and give that a download.
Okay, so Nathan, you're Australian, and I assume that you grew up most of your life in Australia, then, yeah?
I did, yeah. I was, 30 years in Australia. and then I just went up, did my most Australian accent just then.
Okay.
And then 15 years in Canada.
So,
Yeah.
did they have Toys R Us in Australia? Were you a Toys R Us kid growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I knew what Toys R Us were, but I don't think we had something else. We had another brand that was kind of like the budget version of Toys R Us in Australia, but I can't even remember what the store was called. But it was like a sort of, toy, I don't know, like Toy Barn or some sort of weird
Right.
thing. Yeah, and it was kind of, I suppose it was like a Toys R Us. But I was never really a Toys R Us guy because I grew up in sort of more small towns. So a lot of the toys that I had, I suppose, were like at local kind of stores. So we had a lot of those, where on one side of the wall you could buy, get your keys cut, and then the other side was, kind of strange plastic toys in boxes that, were half opened.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That doesn't sound too shabby though either. But
No, right, yeah, yeah. You didn't know any better, so you're kind of like, oh wow, let's go to the whatever the corner store and I'll buy a pack of gum and some a strange kind of, I don't know, GI Joe looking figure, but it wasn't actually GI Joe.
right, right. So you've heard that all the Toys R Us stores are now closing, right?
Yeah, yeah. I haven't really gone into exactly why, but it looked like there were some bad decisions made on the business level. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they did something wrong because every time I went to my local, Toys R Us, it was like just a barren wasteland. I was one of the few people in there. There's only one cash register. The parking lot was empty. I mean, was it the same for you, George, out in Burbank?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was, if there was anybody, it seemed like there was really never anybody shopping until you're ready to check out, and then there was 16 people in front of you and one cashier.
Always.
I don't know how that always worked that way, but that's always the way it was.
It was always like that every time I went to a Toys R Us. And, the funny thing about it, too, is, so Nathan, all the stores are being liquidated this week. And so I drove to my 3 local stores that were near me and thinking that I'm going to get some sort of deal. So I walk in, and the place is absolutely destroyed. There's tons of people, like, toys toppled over. People have carts full. There's tons of lines at the cashier. Something, wow, there's going to be some good deals. But there weren't, like, the initial weeks of the liquidation sale. Like, the pricing was only, like, 5 to maybe 20% off most of the items. And then I know, like, toy pricing. So I'm looking at the pricing. I'm like, these are still more expensive than what I can get at a Walmart or a Target. So both, in all locations, I walked out empty-handed.
Yeah, that's why it almost would make sense that maybe a new business model for Toys R Us is they just create pop-up stores now and then. It's like a Toys R Us, opens, once every 3 months, and it's like, 5 to 10% off, all their toys, and then just closes down, 2 weeks later, and then opens up again, 3 to 6 months. It's kind of I don't know.
That's a great idea.
I like pop-up stores because it feels like it's special, and I'll never see this again, and why not try it?
I like that idea, actually.
Yeah, like big corporations, could start, because they're using, a lot of big corporations go to kind of the indie scene to kind of get inspiration. Why not try some tactics that have worked for, smaller businesses?
Mm-hmm. Now, how much effect, George or Nathan, do you think this is going to have on the entire toy industry as a whole?
Well, I mean, I was reading there's a thing called the Toy Report that comes out for industry, like toy industry folks.
Yep.
And they were saying it was not great things for sure. That was like, I think it was both Mattel and Hasbro stocks were down. And then they were saying that because Toys R Us is about 20% of the toy industry, that it's basically gonna dip. And not even be able to recover not even be able to recover, and at least a 10% dip in overall, like, everything.
Wow.
So it's not great. I mean, especially for the U.S. market, there's no, what's left. I mean, Target has a limited amount of things. Walmart is like down to like half an aisle basically for toys.
Yeah.
There's really just, what's left? Where do you go to get all this stuff now? What are all these brands going to do? And then what about all those companies that had all their stuff in Toys R Us? are they out now? Are they just out of all that money that because they put all that product in there that's now being liquidated? They didn't get paid for that.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, no, I heard that some vendors were not being paid by Toys R Us, and I'm sure there's instances where companies or even maybe some startups got some large purchase orders from Toys R Us, and that stuff is currently being manufactured that they're not going to get paid on. And then where do they sell it?
I mean, that could put a lot of little guys out. I mean, completely. There's guys who probably just have, they probably have Toys R Us, maybe a small Walmart, and maybe a Target or something like that. Accounts, things like that.
Oh yeah.
And if Toys R Us was your main account, you're scred.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nathan. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, do you think it'll actually open up, the sort of the Ma and Pa type stores again? In the old days where you did have local, locally run small toy things that had more specialty toys in it.
I mean, I think from what I heard, it's Amazon basically. Like there's basically no reason to because with rent and all the prices that you need to pay for opening an actual location, I don't think you can compete with Amazon.
Yeah. Do you think maybe Hasbro and Mattel might have their own kind of branded toy stores?
Well, Mattel has a couple, I think, or at least I know they have one here in Los Angeles. That's like a Mattel shop, like a Mattel company store.
Okay.
And I think it would be smart if those guys did something like that. Like if one of those companies was to jump in and open up a kind of thing like that, I don't see why not. And I think they definitely have to move to at least opening an online shop for themselves if they're smart, because I don't know where to go to buy, most of that stuff. Like, I don't know, like the only place to buy things like Imaginext or like those brands like that were, Toys R Us and Target. And, Target never carried quite as many as Toys R Us did. So it's like, where do you go? Where do you get that stuff? So unless everybody starts opening, and I know Mattel had tested the waters with their Matty Collector Club, maybe that was, maybe that's something they can turn into their whole store where they could sell everything out of direct. But they're all gonna have to figure out something quick.
Yeah, I wonder what's happening to all the actual locations, like the actual spaces themselves, because it's a pretty big kind of warehouse-sized, locations. So
I'm sure they're all turned into
Walmarts and Home Depots and Marshalls and Michaels. Yeah, all that big box store stuff.
I want them to become VR rooms or something.
That'd be awesome.
You never know. It could totally go that way. And that's what they should have done in the first place. Made it an experience that people actually wanted to go to. Parents, they want to take their kids to Target and Walmart because they could also pick up their dishwashing detergent as well as the toys at the same time. Like, very rarely, even as a parent myself, did I take my kids to Toys R Us. Usually I would just go alone because I didn't want to take my kids there because, one, the prices were a little higher than the other big box stores, but anyone who has kids, it's not the easiest place. It's kind of a stressful time when you have a kid in a big toy store like that. So I always avoided taking my kids there.
Which is funny because that was the whole point of Toys R Us in the beginning, was it was supposed to be an experience to take your kids to this grand place where they can see and play and touch and and experience the toys, and then it turned into a place where you didn't want to take your kid because then all they'd want to do is touch all the toys and have them.
Well, I always
kind of a backfire.
I always wish they probably couldn't have done it, but anyone who's been to the Toys R Us store in Times Square, I mean, that was an experience. That was
that was great.
Giant life size T-Rexes and Superman holding up the world and 3 stories with the candy store and all that. But, the local stores just did not nearly have that much appeal as, say, the Times Square one.
Yeah, I think what should actually happen is that kids should only get toys once a year, and it should be all the kids in all the towns should only get toys once a year. Kind of like so you just, nobody gets any toys except on one particular day, like a Christmas. And then they open up a special store, and that's when all the kids get their toys, and then it closes down, and there's no more toys for no one else until that day arrives again. It's kind of like, you'd appreciate toys more, right? Because right now there's too easy access to everything, I think.
I don't want to live in your world, Nathan.
I know, it's a sinister world, Nathan.
I know, it's a terrible world, but just think how special things would be if we had more, limited access to things, but then you'd it'd be like Willy, when Willy Wonka opens up his chocolate factory for that,
Yes. Yeah.
it'd be exciting. It would become an event because now, people, everything's so like instant and easy access. Sometimes it makes it less. You less appreciate things. It's like I remember getting my first computer and it was like amazing, and now a new update comes out every 6 months and it just doesn't feel good. So I don't know. That's me. That's me just wanting things special again.
Well, I love the idea of the pop-up shops, and that kind of always creates that hype. You have to buy it now because the shop's probably not going to be here next week, or you're not being able to get it. But I also like the idea of just going grand. It's like Funko at their headquarters. They started opening up a big store on the ground level, and it looks like it's the best toy store I've ever seen. Just all the decorations and the decor and all the different worlds and themes they have going on. And there's people that so the Funko headquarters is like probably about an hour drive from Seattle, but people who are landing there and have like significant layovers are actually renting cars and driving there just for the experience. And while you're there, of course, you're gonna pick up a few things of memorabilia. So I think that's probably where Toys R Us went wrong as far as, and it doesn't sound like they ever competed on the internet as well. It just sounded like the ToysRUs.com. It was never really like the place that parents and other toy buyers ever went to.
Well, their prices were always higher than everywhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the number one thing. It's like, guys, your prices everywhere are high. Your prices are higher than everywhere. Like, why should we go here?
Yeah, you almost want, if I'm going to pay high price, give me an extra experience while I'm here. And that's why I'd pay the extra price. If I had to pay an extra few dollars for something, but I got, I don't know, a mini adventure while I was there, or, while I was there, there was a lounge for, adults to sit and you got free tea and coffee and whatever. I don't know, just something that kind of felt like it was good being there. Then you pay premiums for extra things, and that's why, say there was a crisis with the whole cinema, film industry with cinemas, and home cinema as well. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, how do you make that more interesting? You've got to create a better experience for people who go to the movies. So why not give them the ability to have food and alcohol while they're watching the cinema,
No, totally. I'm totally on board with paying more for that sort of experience. And I've been going back to the cinema because they have those recliner chairs and it feels more private and you're not seeing all the jackasses on their phones and everything. So, yeah, I mean, I think Toys R Us totally... they're wrong. I mean, they didn't go big and grand like they really should have, and the parents just didn't want to go to the store. I mean, had they... Well, you know what? So, I don't know, here in Phoenix, a lot of, even the fast food places are all kind of joining forces to help probably pay on rent space. Like, you'll see a McDonald's and a gas station, or there's a place around us is a KFC combined with a Taco Bell at the same location. So, I mean, maybe Toys R Us should have done something like that. They could have joined in with, collaborated with the local trampoline place, or we have tons of play places where parents are dropping their kids off or spending all day to... just a fun place for kids, so they could have done something like that where you had to walk through the Toys R Us to get to the fun place, or maybe connect everyone likes getting their car washed. Kids love car washes. How about connecting it to a car wash and you could shop for toys while you wait for your car?
Yeah, and maybe your car's being washed by a giant person
in a giraffe outfit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So. Moving on, so there's 2 conventions coming up this actual weekend. So we got ToyCon UK and the Shanghai Toy Show happening this weekend. Have you guys seen any releases or any cool things for those shows?
Yes.
I know George hasn't.
I have been completely just in work mode these last couple weeks, so I have not seen anything online at all, really.
Did you know those shows were coming up?
I had no idea anything was available. I had no idea. All I know is the thing I'm working on, and that's it right now.
Oh, George. Well, let me inform you then. So this weekend is going to be 2 toy events. There's ToyCon UK going on, and there's also going to be STS, which is Shanghai Toy Show, and that event looks like a lot of people are going to, seeing a lot of great releases for that event. And one thing that I did see was by Pucky. It's an artist named Pucky, and it's a new blind box series called Pool Babies. It's being produced by Pop Mart, and basically it's just like all these really creative and unique designs of kids wearing like these very fun and creative pool floaties. I like them a lot, and so that was something that caught my eye. That's going to be at the STS this weekend.
Yeah, I actually like the look of that. They feel these pucky pool babies sort of have a almost like an old school kind of
Yeah.
I don't know, Cupid doll mixed with something else, vibe about them. And the faces are interesting because there's not a lot of expression in the faces, but
Yeah.
it works with all the different outfits. I like it. It feels like the old collectibles used to get in kind of a lot of the Japanese, sort of machines that you put cash in and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the color palette on the pool baby is excellent. I mean, Pucky, I don't know. I think she's going to have an amazing 2018. I mean, so far she's off to a great start, but I think I first started seeing her work maybe a couple of years ago when Unbox was helping her produce some toys, and they're kind of along that same line, but she's got some great releases for STS this weekend, and very excited about that. But another artist that seems to have a slew of releases going on at Shanghai Toy Show this weekend is Ka-Sing Lung. A lot of his monster series are going to be... Are you familiar with Ka-Sing Lung at all, Nathan?
Yeah. I've seen the faces before. Like I recognize the faces. I haven't seen the actual objects, like the full characters. The full toys. But I recognize the sort of this signature kind of mouth and eye type thing that this artist tends to do. And it's that weird kind of it's almost like a crazy elongated grin with his sort of
I love it.
stare. Yeah.
George likes it when I say Labubu. That's the main character. And so he's got a monster series. He was working with a company called How to Work, and they're going to be bringing tons of new stuff to the Shanghai Toy Show. But a lot of them are going to be based on the Labubu character, but it looks like there's a new version. I don't know if it's a new version of Labubu, but they're calling it Zimomo. But it looks like just a new version, a newer, cuter, more simplified version of his main Labubu character. But there's going to be other new colorways, but also they're going to have wind-up toys and vinyl finger puppets of his monster series and all that stuff. So, but we're never going to be able to get those things. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Ka-Sing Lung, he's the guy at these conventions that there's lines around the convention. Everyone's waiting to get his stuff. So it's going to be nearly impossible to get out in the aftermarket unless you pay significant prices.
I like the wind-up ones. I think they were it's nice to see some more wind-up toys, because I remember being involved with Toy Tokyo doing some wind-ups, and it seems like it's hasn't been a very popular thing to release in the in kind of the whole designer toy world, but it's cool kind of to see that this guy's releasing some wind-ups as well.
Yeah, I like when people try something different. It almost doesn't, the medium doesn't really matter to me as long as it still has like that toy aesthetic. So I still collect like wind-up toys and finger puppets and wooden pool toys and even like tin toys when David Horvath was designing like tin toys and all that sort of stuff. So I have a bunch of like just different sort of things. And so when you were designing the wind-up toys, those are the Paleta Owls too, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was in 2006, I think. Yeah.
Okay. George, are you looking up stuff that's releasing at the conventions now?
No, I wasn't. I was listening to you say a bunch of baby words.
La boo boo. So it's kind of strange. So we were definitely hitting toy convention season. So it's a little weird that there's two significant toy conventions this weekend, ToyCon UK, Shanghai Toy Show. And I won't mention some stuff that I like at the Shanghai Toy Show, but I didn't mention anything that I'm seeing at ToyCon. But no, there's definitely lots of great releases going to ToyCon UK. One thing that pops into my head is they've taken their Toyconosaurus toy and made it larger. So anyone who's gone to previous conventions probably picked that up. I think it was probably about a 5-inch figure before, and they've upscaled it to now a 10-inch size, which is really awesome. So anyone who has like a minifigure series, that larger 10-inch scale of the Toyconosaurus is going to really look like the T-Rex toys. Is going to be crushing your minifigures. So I like the idea of them upscaling that. So congrats to ToyCon and Unbox for making that happen. Also, there's another store called Cory. They're a distributor and store out there in the UK, and they're going to be bringing lots of unique goodies. One thing that I saw that they're bringing is some really cool Konatsuya toys, and one of them happened to be a new series that she's doing called Wonder Vehicles, which is essentially like animals riding these cool little cars or crafts, like a fox riding like a cool creative fox car, or a cat driving like a fish car and stuff like that. I've always been a big fan of characters driving toy cars. It's always just kind of sort of appealed to me. Like a few years back, I bought the space cars, but also Konatsuya. Those are some of my favorite pieces in my collection. So yeah, I have a soft spot in my heart for characters driving car toys, and
yeah, I love that as well.
yeah, I don't know. I think it relates to my childhood a little bit. I used to love the Hanna-Barbera wacky races, and just, I don't know, something about a big giant character in a tiny car is funny to me. It's just kind of very cartoonish, and so when I see it in toy form, I usually tend to grab it to liking that sort of stuff. But also at ToyCon UK, Instinct Toy is going to be there for the first time, so that's pretty awesome. A really big international vendor is going to be there, and speaking of Instinct Toy and convention, so 5 Points Fest is coming up. It's going to be the weekend of June 2nd and 3rd. Instinct Toy is going to be there, but this year they're also providing the exclusive toy for the VIP badge, and that toy is going to be a mini erosion molly toy. It's a collaboration between Kenny's work and Instinct Toy. So usually that toy sold out. You normally can't get it. Extremely hard to get. So if you do buy a VIP pass, there's 300 VIP passes available. You will be guaranteed a mini erosion molly. So that's pretty cool. The VIP pass is $125, but it's a pretty good value considering gets you into the Designer Toy Awards. That's the only way to get into Designer Toy Wars. You get early access both days, Saturday and Sunday, to the event. You get access to the Saturday night after party for the 5 Points Fest, that's a $30 value. So I know Saturday passes are already sold out, so don't wait. Actually, I bought my VIP pass last weekend, so I'm good.
I was just gonna say, are you gonna get it because you love the mollies, right?
You know what the funny thing is? I used to love Molly. It's just done by Kenny's work. It was one of my favorite figures, but now, I still like Molly, but it's almost become like a Barbie figure at this point. It's just become like the dress-up doll. It's just like almost a platform, and it's just constantly wearing new outfits and all the new series. Like here's the Egyptian, and here's her wearing a rabbit. And there's a new one I saw a prototype of this morning. It's going to be her wearing the Harley Quinn outfit. So I think in that sense, I'm kind of not as into Molly as I used to be, but I like it when it's still in a more of a unique art toy formation, like what Unbox has done with the Mollies, or Instinct Toy has done with it. So in that regard, yeah. So I instantly I knew these things would probably sell out. I knew I wanted to go to the Designer Toy Awards, so I figured, hey, I'm gonna just go ahead and bite the bullet and bought the tickets. I booked my hotel, my flight, so everything's all set. I'll be at 5 Points.
Nice.
See you guys there?
Nope.
No, you won't see me there. And I'm so glad you're talking about when you're saying Molly. First I was like, I thought you meant the drug, but
No.
Yeah. Yes, I was like Molly's. Molly. Oh yes. Okay.
No.
You can cut that. You don't need to put that into the.
Oh, I'm leaving that in.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
No, I used to collect a lot of the Mollies, which just became that figure that's just, there's so many of them, and they're kind of so hard to get because mainly they're overseas and stuff, that it was just one of those things that I had to stop collecting. And that's kind of how I was when I first started toy collecting. I started out getting the Spawn toys, and then I got into Simpsons, and I bought like the first 2 or 3 series of the Simpsons, and then it just got, I realized how ridiculous it was going to get. So I got out early. I mean, I cut the cord at 3 series. But speaking of Spawn series, like that was like one of the only places you were able to get Spawn toys was at something like Toys R Us. You were never going to see those at a Walmart or a Target or something like that. So that's, again, where we're going to be missing the Toys R Us. Or we're going to be missing all those sort of toys that just doesn't fit into the big box stores.
Yeah, what's going to happen? Like NECA? Where's all the NECA stuff going to go?
Just comic book shops, I guess.
That's awful.
Yeah, you're just going to have to order it through the Diamond previews and just have your local comic shop order this stuff for you, I guess.
I'll get it all through 3D Retro.
So, Nathan, what do you got coming out as far as toys? I think last time we talked to you, you were talking about maybe having a resin figure that you're going to self-produce. You said mentioned something that was maybe going to be like a cat-like figure.
Yeah, I was actually still in sort of discussions on that. But what we do have coming out is a new blister figure, Blister the Octopus. So that actually comes out, I think, next month, or maybe it's the end of next month, or it might be the start of May. And it's a really chunky, vinyl kind of psychedelic version of Blister the Octopus. And that's going to be offered from a couple of places. One will be from Kid Robot, and the other one will be from a place called Secret Fresh in Manila.
Awesome.
Yeah, and they're just limited runs, and they're 2 exclusive colorways that are for those 2 locations. There'll be a few just very limited ones in the original colorways that I designed, and I'm hoping that down the line I can do another version for a company that I'm working with later this year.
Wow. Yeah, I remember seeing those. I don't know. It was probably, I feel like a year ago I probably saw them, but they were real poppy colors, psychedelic, almost like punk colors. Yeah, those were awesome.
Yeah, it's great. We haven't done a figure of Blister the Octopus for years and years and years, and the actual production company, Gums Productions.
Yeah.
Benny originally worked on the original Octopus back in 2003.
Oh, cool.
With Flying Cat. So he was actually at that company way back in the day. And so he was really looking forward to actually making a new version with his own company.
Wow, it's been a long time since I've heard the name Flying Cat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think they stopped existing around, 2006 or 7 maybe. So yeah, it's been a long time since I worked with them. We had a good long partnership.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And then so the Scary Girl, we mentioned that there's going to be an animated feature film coming out, and you said it's still in the early contracting stages. But is there sort of a forethought into marketing as to doing Scary Girl toys up until the release of the film?
We're actually right now we're in the early days of putting together an articulated Scary Girl figure, but it'll be a really limited sort of high-end figure that will have real clothes and will be fully articulated. Probably not exactly sure of the height, but it will. We're just working on that right now, so that will be kind of one thing that will be released probably later this year.
Nathan, I can't afford that stuff. That sounds expensive.
Yeah, it is. I think it's one of those. It's one of those ones where it's like it's with a company that does a lot of like fashion type dolls, so they get
Okay.
Whatever Louis Vuitton asks them to do a dress on their body sort of thing. So
Wow.
yeah, so they're gonna I think hopefully towards the end of the year be made. But right now I'm working on a Scary Girl virtual reality game, and it's actually a game that's free roam, so it's not a single player, but a multiplayer that you run around the size of a tennis court playing a virtual world where you can walk into Scary Girl's treehouse, you can go into the forest, you can meet the Tree of Knowledge and Dr. Maybe. So it's a full on game. So that comes out at the end of the year. So we're trying to tie a few things, a couple of toys with that game.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, so hopefully it all comes together nicely, but it's looking really, really good right now. We've been doing a lot of 4 a.m. late nights just trying to get this first prototype happening, and then we've got probably another 4 to 5 months of work to finish the game.
Jeez. Now, how does this release then? So you said a room, but can you also is it the type of VR that you can download for your phone and play it that way too?
Well, this is free roam, so it's actually you need actually a physical location. So there'll be multiple locations around the world that you actually pay to go into an experience. So it's like a 20-minute kind of experience where you will go in. There's a bunch of them in Vegas right now. There's I think a few in LA. There's a few in Toronto where I'm from, and it's a really immersive experience. There's no wires. It's actually on your back. The computer is actually on your back in a backpack. It's all kind of haptic, so you feel if something hits you, you actually feel it vibrating in your body.
Cool.
It's a full immersive 360 experience. So it's really amazing to test because you can walk around and it actually feels like you're there. So we've been testing the Tree of Knowledge right now, and it's really impressive. It kind of you forget that you're not in the real world.
That's exactly how it should be. I like watching videos of the people doing these type of things, just walking around looking like fools.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the best bit. And we're probably going to try and create that as an experience for people as well. So you kind of have almost like an arena experience where you get to watch people run around an empty space, but because it's a lot of gameplay as well, they're going to be doing all sorts of weird stuff, and I think it will be entertaining for audiences to watch as well.
Sweet, you get the best projects, Nathan.
Well, Gary, there's one out here. So when you come out for DesignerCon this year, you'll be able to do the Star Wars one. It's right at downtown Disney, right next to where DesignerCon will be.
Nice. I don't care about Star Wars, but I'll still do it.
No, it's still a cool thing though. You run around as a stormtrooper, and like it seems pretty awesome.
Now, how much does something like that run?
It's either $20 or $30, something in there.
Yeah, it depends how long the length of it is. There's one in Toronto that's a Ghostbusters one.
That one I want to play.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting because they also have extra sensory things. So a little bit of wet mist gets shot at you. So when a ghost goes through your body, you kind of get a bit of a mist over you.
Cool.
That's cool.
It's a very, very interesting experience, and it tries to follow kind of parts of the original movie, and that was the first one I ever experienced, and it was a good sort of initial tryout for the big thing that we're doing now.
How does it work for us nerds with glasses? Does it still work?
Yep, you can just slot it over your glasses. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it's just headsets. It's almost like an Oculus Rift or some sort of branded headset that just goes over your glasses.
I've only ever tried the like cheap little ones that people have like for their phone and stuff, and it sucks putting them over glasses.
Yeah. The good thing about this is that it's not like Gear VR where you attach a phone to the end of your headset. This is run through a computer that's on your back, so the quality of the graphics is amazing, and you don't get the same kind of heat on your eyes because phones heat up if you have them too close to your face. So this is a very, very, very different experience.
I'm looking forward to it. I'll drop $30-$40 on that. Sounds awesome.
Yeah. Well, I hope it all comes together. It's looking good so far, so crossing my fingers.
And with the one that you're developing, would that be something that they would take around everywhere, or where? Like, is it something local to you, or where's that?
Yeah, it's everywhere. So what it will be is it's you tend to license it. So if a company may have, say, 30 or 40 locations around the world, and then it runs for 3, 4, 5 months in that location, then it may go to a different location. But you can actually have 40 locations at once running these things. So there'll probably be one in LA and one in Vegas, and maybe a few in China, and they'll all be able to experience this Scary Girl VR free roam game.
It's kind of cool because like all they really need is an empty room to run it, right? I mean, besides all the equipment and computers and stuff, they're not building like themed rooms for this kind of, right? It's more just like everything's built in the game. So
yeah, some VR games, some VR free roam will actually have physical objects in the room, but we don't want to have that, and a lot of games are also not having that. So essentially it's just like an empty tennis, slightly smaller than a tennis court space, and it just has sensors all around the room, and then you've got backpacks and headsets, and you're running around in that space. You could be, all you need is really just a big warehouse and expensive equipment.
How do you have any kind of background in this kind of thing, like in this just generating computer graphics or anything like that, or what is your input on creating this? Or are you just doing the design work and someone else is taking that and translating it, or how's that work?
Yeah, I mean, I've had experience in creating games in the past on a kind of I suppose a game design level.
Okay.
So, and obviously I work in directing and designing for animation. So my role is sort of art directing, but also planning out potential gameplay for it. So it's really fun, but obviously I can't program a VR game, and it's all done in Unreal Engine as well. So there's a lot of specialists involved in modeling up the environments, and it has to be done in a particular way for the Unreal Engine and for VR.
Okay.
To work. So I've had a bit of experience, with Xbox and PlayStation games and in various handheld games, but not on this scale. So it's a really great thing to do, and it's so good for designing as well. I love laying out scenes because you can actually go into the scene and you can walk around the scene and go, oh yeah, let's put an object here, or move it over an inch. It looks better, this way, and you're doing that actually in the scene. So it's a really great way, and I can see that would be useful for, even designing toys, for designing large scale, objects and architecture and everything, walking through it, spinning things around. You could have a virtual glass blowing studio where you get to experience it all without, burning yourself to a cinder.
Well, the nice thing about having your world, if a company is like licensing, your world to take into a thing, and it's in Vegas and it's a thing, and the best thing is when you walk out, you got a gift shop, and then you have all your products that are characters from that world that just walked in, and they can buy it and take it home. Like, that's the greatest part of it.
Exactly. And this is sort of leading into kind of, I suppose, maybe what I was kind of not hinting at, but alluding to with experiences with Toys R Us, is that, you could actually have a Toys R Us that existed, but, you go through an experience first, you come out the other side, you've got your amazing toy store at the end of it. But it doesn't feel like just a normal gift shop. It feels like it's sort of part of the event, or I've experienced something that now I want to have something in this store.
Yeah. Maybe we set this up as the well, not me, but maybe George, you can talk to Ben, and you can have this be like the entrance to DesignerCon.
That would be amazing. Or there's just a VR section in DesignerCon.
Yeah, or something like that. Why not?
Give it another year.
I mean, it'd be very easy to create something where you actually have just a toy room. It's just a whole, play area that you can test out all the toys in VR, and you can, because scale doesn't matter or anything, and you could actually walk around, drive a car, play around with toys, and then you have the experience, and there you can actually buy the real thing.
Yeah, have you ever played around? I can't think of the name of the program right now, but there's a program out there where you can actually paint and create inside a virtual reality environment. I was researching this for work, and I watched tons of YouTube videos on it. It looks really cool. Like, there's a woman, she was like tagging walls in her house, but it was all virtual reality, but she was standing on like a 6-foot ladder going all the way to her ceilings, and just working in an environment. Have you ever worked in a program like that, where you worked actually painting and creating in the virtual reality environment?
Yeah, there's a one that I was using, Tilt Brush.
That's the one. Yep.
Yeah. And it's great. I mean, I've only just dabbled with it, so I haven't really gone into a detail, but it's a very, very interesting program to, you kind of, you can do sort of spray paint, and, it looks 2D, and then you walk around and you go, oh, I can actually keep creating, depth and dimension to this thing. You can kind of sculpt an art piece in the real world, and see from all different angles, and there's multiple brushes and all sorts of stuff. It's really great. You can even animate, create animated short films and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think it was on Brand Peters' Facebook account. He was saying that really a lot of creatives really need to get in on, not only ZBrush, but like more in touch with what's going on in virtual reality, because he was saying that's what's going to become the future of creatives. Like back when Photoshop first came out, everyone was like, oh, Photoshop, that's not going to take over. But, it did. Essentially, a lot of the kids growing up today, they're all kind of working a digital world and all that sort of stuff. So who knows? Maybe, VR is going to become the next thing. I think, right now it's just in the beginning stages. But with how fast the technology is advancing today, I mean, who knows what the creative landscape is going to look like in 10, 20 years from now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think there's links to, what we do with, with toys and VR. There's there's just a lot of enjoyable experiences working in VR, and also augmented reality, and the possibilities are endless right now. And if you're doing things like working in animation, or you like kind of directing films, I think it's just another platform to showcase your work as well.
Yeah. When was the last time you were at a toy convention, Nathan?
Yeah, that's a good that's a good question. I think the last time I was there, I was releasing the Monkey King. So it was probably the last toy convention was San Diego Comic Con 2008, I think.
Holy moly! Almost 7.5 years ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Because I remember I released the Monkey King with the company Monkey King.
Yeah.
And then doing another signing at the Monkey King store in LA. And I think that's where where Robert Williams came that time because he was obsessed with the Monkey King. And I think I remember it was a really, really memorable experience to have him there and be a fan of the Monkey King.
Yeah. So why the hiatus? Why been so long between doing a convention?
I don't know, actually. It's a good question. Maybe I don't know why. Maybe I hadn't seen the need for it for myself. But when I think about it, I've had so many releases. You would think that I should do it, but I've done more sort of in-store signings, less conventions, more stores. But it would make sense maybe the next convention would be to either maybe launch the VR game. Maybe it could be a potential thing where we are given a space to showcase the game at the convention. But yeah, I'd like to go back. I'd love to go actually to one of the ones like Shanghai or one of the more international ones.
Yeah, me too. I wish I could afford it, so I stick to the local conventions.
Yeah, it's like I've been to the New York Comic Con. I've been to San Diego Comic Con, but I'd even like to see what the Comic Con in the UK is like. It seems like it's small, but fairly dedicated group of people.
Yeah, it's just a really dedicated, more focused on designer toys. It seems like there's a lot of customizers out there doing the work. But you should definitely check out. You checked out like the more pop culture conventions or comic conventions. You should really check out like a designer con or a 5 Points or something sometime. Something that's a little more focused on design and toys and stuff like that, and not have to deal with all the mess and fuss of the crowds for all the pop culture stuff. Yeah,
I'd like to do that. I've visited the Toronto Comics Art Festival a couple of times in recent years, but it's a different type of vibe. It's not really a toy.
Sure. Well, well, hopefully we can get you to break the hiatus, and we'll bump into each other at convention someday.
Cool. I may have to get back to the group.
Okay.
Yeah, they've all come back and they're all kind of now asking, "Hey, you're going to help us?"
Well, did they bring you back food? That's the important question.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so.
Good.
They were meant to because they had my credit card. So let's wait and see what happens.
Well, thanks for joining. We'll let you get back to work.
Thanks so much for that. See you guys.
All right.
Take care, Nathan.
Thanks, Nathan.
Bye.
See ya. So that was awesome. Nathan coming on and joining on such short notice. He seems like such a busy guy with so many projects going on, yet he's been on the show twice and been able to make time and on very short notice and coming on and chat with us. So that's awesome. I very much appreciate that. And George, you've been busy too, and it's been a couple of weeks since you've been on, and you weren't on the last episode. So how's the wedding planning going?
Good. It's moving along.
You got a date set yet?
Oh yeah, 8/18/18.
8/18/18. Now that's easy enough to remember.
Yep.
Can you rent a VR machine for your event?
Now I want to after all that talk. That was amazing. It's so cool to see someone in our. I know Nathan's outside more than just our scene, but someone in our scene like taking over and doing something like that. That's going to be really cool.
That's going to be awesome. To experience Nathan's world in a virtual reality environment. That's going to be really, really cool. I'm excited for him. And you kind of mentioned like he's kind of like outside the toy scene, but one thing I do enjoy about the designer toy scene is watching these people kind of explode outside of our little toy scene. Like something that popped to mind I guess would be Ugly Doll brand was started out at San Diego Comic-Con, just little hand sewn plushes by David Horvath and Sunmin Kim, and look at that brand now. It's huge, and I think it's next summer they're going to have an animated feature film done with the Ugly Doll, so it's only going to get bigger. And Simone and Legnio's Tokidoki, that brand has exploded. They're getting shops and all sorts of deals seem to be in the works for Tokidoki. I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to hear about a feature film with his brand. And
look, even if you think about it, even Funko.
Yeah. They were just
they were just a little company booth at the end of the in the end of the aisle at San Diego that were 2 for $1 or 3 for $1 on Sunday, and now look at them. Yeah,
now look at them. It's just amazing. I think the company was bought out, and then after when the new owner took over, he just really knew what to do with the company, and they got one great design with the pop figure. I don't remember which license they started out with. I think it was DC or something like that. But man, it just took off, and they ran with it, and now look at them. Yeah, so there's definitely been some success stories in this scene
for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm totally for sure. I mean, and there's people that we're definitely forgetting too. I don't know, like recently we heard about Leslie Leving's Beastly's brand. I mean, it's been in the works for several years, but it sounds like now she's got a big toy deal going on and something in the works, like something animated in the works going on with Bad Robot. So, yeah, I mean, lots of people, it's fun to see, watching people grow and expand and explode outside the designer toy stream and hit mainstream. And also, with Nathan, we were talking about the VR. So, I mentioned Brant Peters. It seems like he's knowledgeable in that area, and I know he started a full-time job at a company out there in New Mexico called Meow Wolf. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about Meow Wolf, but I know it's like a all-encompassing immersive experience when you go there, and I know they have virtual reality, and it's just a crazy world created inside. I've seen people on social media climbing through like a dryers to enter into this another world, and it sounds really cool. And I think they might be branching out and having a future space out there in California too, George.
I have no idea. I've never heard of that, but that doesn't mean anything. I don't hear of a lot of things.
I mean, I'm certainly no expert on it either. I had never heard of Meow Wolf before I saw Brant posting it on his Facebook page, and now he's working there full time. So congrats, Brant, if you're listening. But yeah, it sounds like it's just a cool. I think it started out as a collective of creatives, and then over time, and now they're about 150 to 200 employee or creatives strong, and creating these awesome environments. And I believe it was Game of Thrones author George R.R. Martin. Somehow he was convinced to buy them like a defunct bowling alley space, and that's what they're operating now and out of now. And it sounds like it's become a popular destination out there in Santa Fe, and it sounds like they're dabbling in virtual reality and just making a really cool art exhibit, fully immersive experience out there.
That's really cool, and I think we're gonna have to do that VR experience when you get out here, because it's I think it's called like Void or something like that. It's you can look it up. It's just look up like Star Wars Void. I think that's what it's called. It's in downtown Disney. They had one in Florida. In Florida too when we were out there in January, and I think we were going to go to it, but we didn't have the time, or something happened where we didn't end up going to it. But they have one here, so I think I definitely have to see it now. I definitely want to go.
So you haven't done it yet?
No, I haven't done it. I've just heard like stories about it and seen like I went into the lobby to look, to see what it was like when I was in Florida, but we didn't get a chance to actually go in.
What are the lines like though? I mean, is it like a typical Disney ride where you're waiting?
No, they recommend you buy your ticket online ahead of time.
Okay.
So that you go, because you basically go at a certain time and you have a time slot. But if you just go there, you just buy your ticket for whatever time, later on.
Oh, nice. Well, then maybe I will do that. But buy a little time slot before I head out to Designer Con and do that for like an hour one evening.
Yeah, and it's really cool looking. I mean, I think Carlos and his girlfriend went and they did it. Carlos and Daniela went and did it, and they said it was like, Carlos said it was amazing. He said that he would reach out, because you can like Nathan was just saying, there's like a backpack that you wear. So the backpack is on the stormtrooper, that when you see the person standing in front of you, they look like a stormtrooper. And he said he was reaching out and touching, and you can actually touch the backpack on the person in front of you because that's what they're wearing, and it's in the game that way.
Oh, awesome.
So it's modeled to look like that. And he said like you could reach out and touch the wall, and there'd be like, if there's a panel on the wall, they had built it so that in the room there was a panel on the wall, so you can actually reach out and touch it.
I'm looking at photos now of people playing, and they're all like reaching and touching, and it looks cool.
I would imagine seeing it without the stuff on just looks ridiculous.
But it looks really well done. It almost looks like what I'm seeing now. I don't know where I am. StarWars.com. It has 5 reasons why you'll love Secrets of the Empire, but it almost reminds me of like a laser tag room, but with like you're wearing like a crazy headset. But it looks more golf. Kind of, you were talking about the goggles that you wear with like a VR system on your phone, and those suck. It's the same thing when you go to when you're wearing glasses and you go to a 3D movie theater experience. You got to put the 3D glasses over your actual eyeglasses, and it sucks. But this looks
it's the worst.
Yeah, this looks nothing like that. It looks much better. Awesome. Has Scott done this? I know sometimes being a Disney employee, he gets to do these things on a preview basis.
He hadn't done it in January, and I haven't hung out with him yet again to see if he's done it yet. So I will. I'm supposed to see him this weekend, so I'll ask him if he's done it yet.
Okay, nice. And let me know how it is if you actually do it this weekend. So George, we did our hotline ring this weekend, so we do have another message from a caller.
We have a phone number?
We do. But what is our phone number?
We should probably put that in here.
Yeah, we probably should. Oh, here it is. So, yeah, if you are a listener and you want to call and leave us a message and hear your voice play back over the air, you can call 480-420-9823. Go ahead and leave as many messages as you like, and just shoot me an email and let me know which one you want played over the air.
And we'll play the other one.
We're not that big of jerks. So, I guess without further ado, here's the message, and let's see if we can give them some advice.
All right, let's hear it.
Hey, this is Eat More Toys, and here's my conundrum. I have an artist commissioned to paint a very expensive toy. It's been over a year and a half. He is terrible at communicating or sending any pictures of work in progress. Should I just forget about this toy? I don't want to. I want it back. I want it finished. At this point, I just want it back. Help. What is y'all's opinion? Oh, God.
He sounds pretty distressed, George.
He really does.
So did you understand all that?
Yeah, I think so. I know Eat More Toys. He was on Toy Break. He was I've hung out with him in Georgia when we went down there to Dragon Con, and I think on another trip. I can't remember which one, but yeah, we've hung out. I know he did some shout outs that you're going to cut out, but that's okay. Like, I know all those dudes, so shout out. He knows who they are. I shout right back out to him.
Yeah, it sounds like he was shouting out the good guys he's had experiences with, I assume, right?
These are all his buddies, his Atlanta buddies, like
Okay.
people that are out there that they all hang out together. There's a good group of all of those people, and I think I'm trying to think if all of them were there. I think all those guys he shouted that were not obviously talking about something that isn't in the podcast, but there's a good shot of all of us at dinner out there, and it was a fun time hanging with those guys. They all bring toys, we all play with toys and eat burgers, and it was good times.
Nice.
So yeah, his question was basically, what do you do when you give a toy to an artist to customize? I see the one question I have for him is, did he pay for it? Was it paid ahead of time?
So that was my question after I heard it. So I did reach out to him for some follow-up on that. And he said
Oh, nice.
there was no upfront money. There was no money exchange. He just communicated with the customizer, sent him what he said it was an expensive platform, I guess, to be customized. But it's been a year and a half. He hasn't seen any work in progress. He can't seem to get any sort of communication back. And he's just kind of wondering what our advice would be for, his situation.
I mean, something like that, I would say, if you didn't work something out ahead of time with the artist about a timeline, and I mean, this is the reason why, it helps to have contracts and things like that. I know most people aren't going to get a contract to get a custom made, but it would be nice to have at least an email agreement or something where it's like, I'll send you this toy. I could send you this much up front, this much upon completion. Hopefully the dates, upon when you would expect to see something, that kind of stuff could all be put out in an email to each other. That way everybody's on the same page, because you don't know this guy's schedule. You don't know the artist. He might have, 20 commissions ahead of you, and he just says, yeah, I'll take your commission. And you don't know, you might not know how long it's going to take. And you should kind of figure that stuff out ahead of time. Sounds like they didn't in this case. And
Yeah.
I would say if you're in the point where you're getting hurt feelings against the artist, that's going to ruin a relationship. Maybe it's time to say, you know what, let's just kill this one. I'll come back to you when you have some more time. I would say offer to pay the shipping to get your piece back, because the guy's not going to want to be out shipping. He's not going to ship it back to you on his dime. So you should pay the money to get it back to you, or ask him about, a deadline and when you could, maybe you could pay something up front to start the process and bump your name up the list of commission. Or I would just recommend people get that stuff ahead of time, try and get it in writing ahead of time if you can.
I totally agree, because if you don't do any of that sort of timeline for maybe a set date for when you expect it back, or at least maybe set dates of when you want to hope to see progress, or it's especially the money up front, if you don't have any sort of terms, I think a lot of people are just going to kind of just keep putting it off. I know I've done that myself. I have not a commission, but it's Catherine Park sent me a platform to customize probably 2 years ago, and I haven't touched it, and I feel terrible. But that's just because we didn't have an agreement. There was no exchange of money. She was very kind. She said, just work on it when you have time, and other things just keep popping up, and that project gets just keep pushing back, and that could be the same case in this scenario. So I would say definitely, everything you said, I would totally agree with. As far as if a customizer, if you send them something and they're just terrible communication, I don't know what you do in that scenario.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he can, just keep it private, reach out, privately, and hopefully the guy will get back. But I mean, because you don't want to put him out, you don't want to shout him out on social media or something. That try and keep it private and just try and handle it. Maybe you know one of his buddies and you can kind of like, hey, can you help me out, the kind of thing. But artists are the worst, and I'm in this category. I do the same thing. We will procrastinate for as long as we can possibly procrastinate until the deadline is on us.
It's true.
It's just how it goes. There's always something else that's going to be there. Especially doing a custom piece where there's no due date at all.
Yeah,
it'll be there for the rest of your life. I have so many things that I want to sculpt and work on that I will never do because I just don't have a reason to do them. That's a deadline,
Right. That's what it is still. I mean, how many custom shows have come up where almost all the artists are posting on social media probably the 2 weeks or the week before that they're finally working on that project. And I think that's just, I don't know, I wouldn't say we're all procrastinators, but sometimes, there's just other things you want to work on first or whatever. And
no, we're all the worst. You could say it.
We're not all the worst, but sometimes if it's a project that you just don't necessarily want to work on, yeah, it's kind of a burden and just keeps on sitting on the back burner, and next thing you know, a year and a half has passed, 2 years, 3 years, and but I would hope at least whoever's customizing would at least be a good communicator and say, hey, I can send it back to you. I don't know when I'm going to get it to it. I think that's probably the most important part. Even if you failed to do the project, at least be, for your business wise and good word of mouth, at least have a saving grace of just saying that you were at least good at communicating and being honest and all that sort of stuff.
And it's going to be hard to do that, because it's like, oh crap, I've been sitting on this for a year and a half. I feel like a douche, and it's really a bit of an ego slap that you got to just suck it up though as the artist on his side.
Yeah.
You just got to be like, all right, it's my fault. I didn't. You could blame the dude, like, all right, you didn't give me a deadline. And just go that way. Or you can just be a man and be like, all right, it's my fault. I didn't get to it. Let me give it back to you. Pay me for shipping.
Yeah.
I'll send it back. No hard feelings. I'm super sorry. Let's do this again next time. And let's make make some terms,
Yeah. And I think the worst thing you could do, you sort of touched on it, is going to social media and blasting people. Maybe you can do it without mentioning names. I've seen that before on Facebook and forums and stuff. But there have been instances where I've seen it on forums where someone's just is blasting someone's name and dragging him through the mud without all the other readers paying attention and getting the full story and both sides of the story. You don't want to do that through social media. So definitely try to keep it private, I would say.
Now, I would say just keep it off Facebook until it's necessary, or social media, just because I hate those posts where people don't say what they're talking about. I hate when people if you're not going to name the name, then just shut up. But if it goes to the point where the dude gets back to him and is like, F you.
Yeah. Okay.
And then if he's like, I'm not sending this back, screw you or something like that. If it turns mean, then blast it.
If you're in an absolutely horrendous situation like that and you're ready to go and blast and do some mudslinging on social media, I guess have at it. But before you do that, please just ensure that you've exasperated every possible means of communication to resolve the issue privately. I would say the only time to take it to social media is when it's become such a bad situation that you want to make other artists or other galleries or other people aware of what's going on and to avoid this company or person altogether. That would be the only way to do it, but just understand that sometimes those type of threads, people are reading between the lines, and if you're the one doing the mudslinging, sometimes people that think you're also the ass as well, so sometimes both parties come across bad. So it's just something to to be cautious with if you do take it to social media. I've done it before. I regret it every time. It just doesn't look good. But yeah, no, okay. I think we answered that question fairly decently.
And peace out to the Atlanta crew. Miss you guys.
Shout out. Well, let's just go ahead and wrap this up then. So thanks to Nathan, or shout out to Nathan Jurevicius for coming on. Very much appreciated. You're awesome. If you want to check out Nathan's work, you can follow him on Instagram. It's Nathan Jurevicius. That's spelled Nathan, last name Jurevicius. Otherwise, you can see his Scary Girl brand at scarygirl.com. All right, well, George, where can people find you?
At Double G Toys on Instagram, and that's it for now.
Okay, and I'm Gary Ham. You can find me at garyham.com or superham.com. I don't think that we're going to start doing this every week. I'm sort of liking the every other week thing.
We'll see. We'll see.
I know. I say that every time, don't I?
There's gonna be like, I'm gonna have some more time soon, maybe, and then like, I'll be able to get that game I keep promising.
Yeah, are you working on that game?
In my head.
All right, we need to get it out of your head.
So many questions already.
Damn it, write that stuff down.
I know.
Yeah, but I would love to get back to doing more games, just more fun stuff like that. I got some few ideas I can get in the works, but we all got so busy all at the same time. A bunch of projects fell on my lap, and I probably have another week or two before I can kind of thin things out and get out of the woods on that one. So, and you guys have been super busy too. It's just been hard for all to kind of coordinate on a record time each week. So, maybe in a week or two things will slow down. We can get it back to going weekly again.
Yeah, I was on 2 gigs at once, and now I'm back down to 1. So I think I'll be able to get normal schedules at least for a little bit.
Okay. That's weird how we all got busy at the same time. I know Teresa was working on, I don't know exactly what she was working on, but she was pulling like 14, 16-hour days, getting home at midnight and stuff like that. So, and now she's got family in town, so maybe she'll be back next week.
Let's hope.
Yeah, well, otherwise, maybe we'll be back next week. Maybe we won't. Our schedule is kind of up in the air at the moment, so who knows?
I like the mystery of it. Everyone, as tuning in, you'll just have to wait and see.
Wait and see. All right, so until our next transmission, we're signing off. Bye.
We do this every week, not because we have to, but because we want to.
Well done, George. So fluid.
I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. There's a million toys at Toys R Us that I could play with. From bikes and trains to video games. It was the biggest toy